In today's video, we're reviewing the latest news and rumors from around the NHL, focusing on some trade talk around teams like New Jersey, San Jose, as well as Ottawa. We have some other news as well regarding the Calgary Flames and some tough decisions on their pending unrestricted free agents. We also have some other roster moves from around the league, and we saw something unusual today with the Chicago Blackhawks dressing 11 forwards with only a cap hit of under $14 million. That team is so ravished by injuries, it's not even funny. We'll discuss all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have all the latest news today from around the league to take a look at. First up, I want to address the fact that the Chicago Blackhawks did something a little bit unusual today, but it's kind of a necessity. It's not anybody's fault, but this team is so badly injured. They have so many players that are on injured reserve or LTIR that they're in pretty rough spots. I mean, obviously, as we've seen, they picked up Zach Sanford on waivers. They traded basically a late round pick that's a 7th rounder for Rem Pitlick. So they're picking up, other NHLers that teams kind of don't want, that are kind of fringe players, with, low salaries, just trying to fill the roster, essentially get a team on the ice. Obviously, they have people that could call up, but they can only call up so many. And, there's some players that you just want them to focus on their development and not have to worry about and deal with the rigors of the NHL just yet. So today against the Calgary Flames, they only were able to dress 11 forwards, and the cap hit total combined for those 11 forwards was $13.9 million. That's how many players they have on either rookie salaries or near league minimum or barely above that, because of the number of injuries that this team has gone through and what they're battling right now. Surprisingly, they beat the Calgary Flames today with that type of lineup. That's going to be a devastating blow for the Calgary Flames. That's a game they absolutely needed to win if they're going to try to stick around and be in this playoff mix for the Western Conference. You can't be dropping games like this. I mean, obviously, no offense to the Blackhawks, but I think most teams go into those games expecting to win, especially where they're at now. I mean, their main player who was creating the offense was Connor Bedard, and he's out injured now. So this is the first game that he missed. And look what happens. Obviously, they played hard and they played desperate and they got the job done. So that's bad news for Calgary, but it's just very unusual. You see a team dress an actual cap hit that low and they're dealing with what they're dealing with. So ultimately, the Blackhawks will definitely be in the lottery and be one of the top teams favored for a high pick again this year. But certainly a very unusual situation for the Calgary Flames. They now play the Ottawa Senators on Tuesday. Again, Ottawa's obviously in a bad string of luck right now. Not really luck, because obviously it's more than just luck involved. But now they're going to have a very angry Calgary Flames team who just dropped a game to Chicago that they shouldn't have, that are coming at them on the next game. So things don't get easier by any means. Speaking of Ottawa today, they also announced that they've reassigned young forward Angus Crookshank and Yuri Schmeichel back to the American Hockey League. That would be because Matthew Joseph will be coming off of long-term injury reserve. They'll likely activate him tomorrow, I suspect, and he will play against the Calgary Flames on Tuesday night. Joseph has missed a little over a month and will be a nice welcome addition back to this lineup, get some more speed injected and hard work. Obviously, the team is struggling right now. The team played a way better game against the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday night. Unfortunately, another loss, but I think at least they can be a little bit more held high with their work ethic and defensive play. The Oilers got a couple of power play goals, and that was the difference. Obviously, the PK in Ottawa has struggled, but the Edmonton Oilers' high-powered offense on the power play is a struggle for any PK. But, it's pretty bad, though, when you're looking for moral victories for the Senators at this point. This is not where things expected to be, and we'll discuss them a little further in the video and some of the potential changes we might see there as well. In New Jersey, we got news today that defenseman Jonas Siegenthaler has a broken foot, so he's going to be out for an extended time. They also had to move Thomas Nosek to long-term injured reserve to extend his absence as well on the injury list here. Clearly, the Devils are a team that we're going to be talking about in the rumor section here of the video in a couple of moments, and are already missing a key blue liner, Dougie Hamilton. Siegenthaler plays a pretty significant role for them. And then, of course, they have some goaltending concerns. Jack Hughes is now injured. This is now a team that has to make some critical decisions here in the short term. But bad news on that injury front. And I said we'll get back to the Devils shortly here. The Minnesota Wild today recalled their top prospect goaltender, Jesper Wallstedt. He was drafted as a very highly touted goalie. He's been putting in his time in the American Hockey League and will get an opportunity to come up. Zane McIntyre's been reassigned, so we'll see if the Wild can get him into a game, make his NHL debut. Wallstedt, like I said, was a very highly touted prospect. Could be their goalie of the future, hard to say. Or at the very least, maybe he makes up the tandem with Gustafsson longer term. We don't know the future of Marc-Andre Fleury beyond this year. Be curious to see how things go, but hopefully things work out there for the best. The Predators today recalled, actually happened yesterday if I'm not mistaken, Denis Gurianov has been recalled to the NHL. He'll get his first action there. Obviously the former high pick of the Dallas Stars ended up in Montreal last year after an extended stretch of inconsistent play, ended up getting traded out of Dallas, didn't last long in Montreal, mainly because his qualifying offer was just way too much. I do think there was a chance that they did discuss a cheaper contract, but ultimately ended up signing with the Predators instead on a two-way deal. And well, here we are. So at least he's going to get a look, and we'll see what he can do as another shot here at the NHL. And the Buffalo Sabres have reassigned Yuri Kulich back to the American Hockey League. Of course, he was in the World Junior Championship participating for his country and had a really solid tournament overall. So he's now back and ready to go in the AHL. Now, in the rumor section of the video, there's a lot of uncertainty about the Calgary Flames. We know they're going to be one of the more interesting teams to watch here down the stretch as we get closer to the deadline. Obviously, January is usually a pretty telling month. You start to see activity in the trade front pick up at least a little bit. We've seen some more waiver claims, some small trades. It's hard to say when we'll get a blockbuster or a bigger deal. It could be close. It may not be for a little while yet. Obviously, the trade deadline's early March, so we're hovering around that 5 to 6 week mark now, and clearly, within the stretch here, we're going to see the Flames make some important decisions, either re-signing or shipping out some key players. Obviously, Noah Hannafin is one that's getting a lot of attention here as of late. Eric Francis of Sportsnet's reporting that he really thinks the Flames need to make a run here to get him signed. Says how important he is to the team, and he's saying that mid-20 defenseman who he kind of labels as a number 3 second pair guy wants to stay in Calgary. I honestly don't necessarily know that that's true. I don't want to dispute what Francis is saying here, but it's the first time we've actually heard it, and a reporter connected to the Flames say that he wants to stay. I mean, there was word back earlier this season that they basically verbally had an agreement on a long-term deal for him to stay and re-sign, and then he changed his mind and pulled out of it. So I think it's fair to say that Hannafin's probably been back and forth with this decision. It sounded like there was a point in the offseason where he definitely wanted to move on. And then it sounded like once they got to training camp and seen what other moves they made, he was at least willing to talk and willing to reconsider. And then they got to these negotiations. Things were getting closer. And then he's like, yeah, no, things are not going well here. I don't think I want to do this, basically. And now here we are. And it's been quiet for a while up until this past couple of days. And now we're hearing there's a chance. I mean, Elliot Friedman did report this as well. I would take his word to be a little bit more valuable than Francis, but Elliot said that they're at least talking again. So it looks like the Flames are making an attempt. But based on the language from Eric Francis, he's saying it's something the Flames really should do. I was like, well, to be honest, I think it's something they would like to do and do want to do. A lot of it has to do more so with the fact that the player doesn't appear to want to stay. Now, whether or not they can convince him to do that may be another story. Like I said, it's kind of been a yo-yo back and forth thing all year. There's been times where it's looking like he might stay and times where it's looking like he definitely was going to move on. So we don't know. I mean, obviously it looks like Elias Lindholm is almost a certainty to move. I know the Flames do have some interest to keep Tanev as well. And again, another player that I think they definitely at least want to talk to and explore with a little bit, see what they can work out if they can. But at the end of the day, they have some really tough decisions. Right now, it's just a big question mark over this team hovering around 500. It's a devastating loss today to the Blackhawks. They need to decide, can this group compete as is? Or as much as we like these players or don't like these players, is this, do we need change? And at the end of the day, some of these players could get them a pretty good return. They have some interesting young players who they've worked into the lineup over the course of this season and end of last year, and we've seen some of them have an impact. Some are still kind of finding their way, and I just don't know that the prospect pool is overly deep. They have a few interesting ones that they've worked in. It really wouldn't hurt them at all to be able to recoup some more future assets. So I'm not sure that they all leave, per se, all three of these players. And I guess there's a chance Hanifin stays. It's just the first time we've really heard about the fact that, from anybody saying he wants to stay, whereas I kind of peg it as more as Flames trying to convince him to stay. We'll see how things play out. Now, as I mentioned, New Jersey, very interesting team to look at as well. Suddenly, they find themselves with some different issues. We knew they were already missing top defenseman Dougie Hamilton. He's been out for a while, expected to miss the rest of the regular season. Goaltending's been a bit of an issue in New Jersey this year between Vanacek and Schmid. Schmid's now down in the minors. They have Nico Dawes up. And clearly this team is just looking for a spark. I don't know if Dawes is the answer for this year. I mean, he does have potentially a bright future. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. But ultimately, lots of speculation about the Devils might address both of these positions. Hanifin was one of their targets, according to other reports before. So obviously, whether or not he becomes available or decides to stay in Calgary will greatly have a big impact on what else they might do. Now, on Sirius XM Network Radio, NHL Network Radio, on the Blues the Power Play with Steve Koulias and Dave Pagnotta and former NHL goalie Carter Hutton, they were having a discussion around the Devils and goaltending and what they may do, and they kind of all agreed that they could not really sure exactly for sure what direction Tom Fitzgerald and Jim is going to go in, but they can see this team making a big move to not only solidify goaltending for this year and find a solution to get through this season, but to find that number one goalie that they can bank on having in their organization for an extended time. So we're looking at John Gibson in Anaheim. Maybe even Jacob Markstrom's name in Calgary came up too. He's another guy that even though he's not a pending UFA, he's getting some attention. Now, the Flames have had different versions of Markstrom over the course of this contract. They do have an extra goalie. They have Vladar. They have Wolf. They definitely want Wolf on the NHL full time. Can't get him there just yet. Trying to be patient. It's definitely going to happen for next year. But whether, is there a chance that they would move Markstrom to a contending team and decide to maybe hang on to Dan Vladar and platoon him with Dustin Wolf? You have to wonder. I think there's a possibility that things could look different in Calgary. Maybe some more different, like some of the UFAs do stay, but I could see the Devils. I don't know exactly what would all be involved, and I don't know that they would be able to get it done. But I can see there being a real conversation with Calgary and New Jersey around Hanifin and Markstrom, or Markstrom and Tanev. Some combination, one of the D and a goalie. I mean, the Devils have a lot of interesting young pieces. They have draft selections that they can move. I really think that there's a real deal there to be had. So we'll have to wait and see where things go. But I do think the Devils are definitely a team to watch when it comes to goaltending. I do agree with the guys on the network, NHL Network Radio, that if they do make a move, that it could very well be one of these guys who can come in and solidify it long term, not just a band-aid solution for the rest of the year. And I do think they're going to want to adding on defense is that much more important now with Siegenthaler out. You get Hamilton out. They have some good young D, but there's a lot of inexperience there, and at times it shows. So to add some more experience back there will go a long way, and I can see them trying to do it. San Jose Sharks goaltender Capo Kakkonen's getting a lot of attention. I don't know if he's necessarily a fit in New Jersey. Maybe he is. Lots of interest, and obviously he's a guy who's had a strong December. In the last 4 or 5 weeks have been real good for him. He's on a bad team. It's been on a major losing streak here. He's a pending UFA, and there's just a lot to like with how he's played. Good contract. You don't have a long-term commitment, but if things work out, maybe you can get one. It's just a lower risk scenario. I don't know that the asking price with the Sharks would be as high as some of these other guys, especially guys that come with term. So he's, to me, a guy like that could be a good fit in LA. I know LA is looking for help for Talbot now to maybe not have to deal with David Riddick at the NHL full time. But then again, maybe if they don't like the price, maybe they try to roll with Talbot and Riddick And then, of course, Carolina's also in the goalie pool mix here, not just the Devils. They were previously linked to some other guys like in Montreal. Hard to say what they go in, but Kakkonen is definitely getting attention and will definitely be in play. So we'll see where he might end up. And in Ottawa yesterday, we talked about the fact that the latest reports say that newly appointed GM, or not really newly in a sense because he's been interim GM for a while, but Steve Staios is out there looking to put a lightning bolt through this roster and make a big move. Well, it's more likely than not, and after those reports kind of surface and more reporters have had time to chime in, it sure sounds like it's not going to be a young player. It's going to be a pending UFA, and if they can move a guy who is not going to be part of the future for somebody who comes back with a little bit of term, and they can find a good fit, that's a deal that they'd love to make. So you're looking at guys like Kubalik and Tarasenko. They probably don't stay beyond the current season. They likely get dealt in some capacity, and if they can find a player coming back, then that's what they're going to be going for. I mean, that to me makes a lot of sense. They want veteran help who can stick around and help Claude Giroux with these younger players and kind of get them to lead the way, lead by example, teach them how to win, teach them how to be a complete player. That's what they're looking for, and to me, it makes a ton of sense that that's what they want. But guys like Tarasenko and Kubalik make the most sense, and we'll see. I know they'd probably be willing to make a move in goal too if somebody has interest, but considering how poorly their goalies have played, I highly doubt that's a possibility. So we'll see what happens. That is all your news and updates for today. Let me know your thoughts on anything down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.